Why Jon Snow was the MVP of the fight against the White Walkers, the Targaryen who will unite the realm from Aegon's dream, despite not delivering the final blow against the Night King himself. 1. Prophecies and/or dreams are subject to interpretation by whoever is seeing them. Their worldview, their wishes and biases inform what conclusions they draw based on their visions. Aegon thought a Targaryen sitting on the Iron Throne would unite the realm. Instead, it was a Targaryen who did not even know he was a Targaryen, who united the realm to fulfill the prophecy of bring together people from all corners of the realm to fight in the long night. To see how a prophecy can be misinterpreted, let us first hear Viserys I Targaryen tell Renrat about Aegon's prophecy.
But ambition alone is not what drove him to conquest. It was a dream.
Aegon foresaw the end of the world of men. Just to begin with a terrible winter, gusting out of the distant north. Aegon saw absolute darkness riding on those winds, and whatever dwells within will destroy the world of the living. When this great winter comes, Rhaenyra, all of Westeros must stand against it. And if the world of men is to survive, a Targaryen must be seated on the Iron Throne. A king or queen, strong enough to unite the realm against the cold and the dark.
I am sick and tired of watching videos where someone complains that because Jon did not deliver the final blow, his whole character arc was useless or unfulfilled, or that he's not the Targaryen that Aegon the Conqueror Targaryen thought would be sitting on the Iron Throne, and who would unite the realm to fight against the coming darkness from the north. In this video, I'll tell you why he is the Targaryen from Aegon's dream. Please put some respect on his name. Since we know there wasn't a Targaryen on the throne, what did Aegon see in his dream that he misinterpreted as a Targaryen still ruling Westeros? I posit that he saw a scene from the Long Night Battle, which probably was all these different armies fighting together and of course Dany's dragons. There's only one conclusion that a man like Aegon I Targaryen would draw from this scene. 1.1 There was a Targaryen on the Westeros throne. Why wouldn't there be when he saw dragons were still around? We know no one could have removed or even dreamed of challenging a Targaryen monarch with dragons around. 1.2 Seeing the presence of all these different people around meant that this Targaryen had a united realm that joined him in the fight. A man like Aegon wouldn't have imagined a different scenario. Why am I convinced Aegon misinterpreted his dream? The gist was that the realm would be united and a Targaryen would be important in uniting it. We know that this Targaryen brought together wildlings, Northerners, the Vale, and another Targaryen who had dragons to unite in the common fight. Let me present another example of a Targaryen misinterpreting their own prophetic dream. 3. I Targaryen from House of the Dragon has demonstrated that prophecies or dreams are tricky. They're subject to interpretation by the person who's having them. For example, he says he knows Emma is carrying a son.
This child is a boy, Emma.
Yeah.
I'm certain of it. I've never been more certain of anything.
Because he had a dream where he saw him born with the Conqueror's crown.
The dream. It was clearer than a memory.
Our son was born wearing Aegon's iron crown.
But as we realize in episode 9 of the first season of House of the Dragon, Aegon too has son with a different woman altogether, aka Alicent Hightower is the son he saw. Aegon II Targaryen is the one who wears the Conqueror's crown, and it is at his coronation and not when he is born.
And I heard the sound of thundering hooves, splintering shields and ringing swords.
And I placed our son upon the Iron Throne. As the bells of the Grand Sept tolled.
Aegon the King!
And all the dragons roared as one.
Born wearing a crown. God spare me. Birth is unpleasant enough as it is.
Now that we have established that Westeros was doomed without Jon Snow, let me go into all the things this man did to fight the Night King to make sure that the living in Westeros won, and to reunite the realm, also known as the multiple factions that existed around the time the White Walkers invaded. From the very first moment when Jon Snow first encountered a White Walker, he realized that the White Walkers were not just a myth but a real and dangerous threat. Jon Snow's experiences beyond the Wall help him to understand the threat posed by the White Walkers and their army of whites. These experiences also help him to forge alliances with the wildlings, who will eventually become valuable allies in the fight against the White Walkers. When Jon Snow became the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, here are some of the actions he took to secure the Wall and the Seven Kingdoms. 2.1 Negotiated a truce with the wildlings in Season 5, which allowed them to pass through the Wall and take refuge south of it, preventing the White Walkers from turning them into whites. 2.2 Sent members of the Night's Watch to gather dragon glass, which is a substance that can kill White Walkers in Season 5. Jon sent Samwell Tarly to Old Town to seek out knowledge about dragon glass and its locations. Sam eventually finds a book that mentions a dragon glass mine under Dragonstone, which is the ancestral home of House Targaryen. Jon also sends a group of Night's Watch Rangers to search for dragon glass in the Haunted Forest. This group of rangers is led by Gren, and they eventually find a cache of dragon glass weapons that had been buried by the Children of the Forest. 2.3 Personally, led a mission to Hardhome in Season 5 to convince the wildlings to join the fight against the White Walkers, and to successfully evacuate some of them back to Castle Black. 2.4 Using his Valyrian steel sword, Longclaw, to kill a White Walker during the battle at Hardhome. When he came back from the dead and reunited with Sansa, and together they took back the North. 2.5 Convinced Sansa the White Walker threat was real, so she could help him keep the North united, and in coordinating the logistics of the fight, prepping for the upcoming battle and winter while he went to try and secure an alliance with Daenerys and her dragons. As the king in the North. 2.6 Forming an alliance with Daenerys Targaryen and her armies, including her dragons, in Season 7 to fight against the White Walkers. 2.7 Personally, led a mission beyond the Wall in Season 7 to capture a White to show to Cersei Lannister, and convince her to join the fight against the White Walkers. After securing Daenerys' commitment to first fighting the White Walkers before Cersei. 2.8 Strategizing and leading the defense of Winterfell in Season 8, including placing trenches filled with dragon glass to stop the White Walkers and their army of the dead. 2.9 Engaging in combat with the Night King's forces, and that stare down with his undead dragon during the Battle of Winterfell in Season 8. 3. He has interacted with the White Walkers more than anyone else on the show. He is the ultimate nemesis of the Night King. The Joker to his Batman. The Zod to his Superman. Here are the instances when he did so. 3.1 In Season 4 Episode 4 Oathkeeper, Jon and a group of Night's Watch members go beyond the Wall to eliminate the traitor mutineers at Craster's Keep and fight against White Walkers and Whites. 3.2 In Season 5 Episode 8 Hardhome, Jon leads a mission to rescue wildlings at Hardhome from the White Walker army and engages in combat with a White Walker. 3.3 In Season 7, Episode 6 Beyond the Wall, Jon and a group of heroes embark on a mission beyond the Wall to capture a White to bring to Cersei Lannister, but are surrounded by a horde of White Walkers and Whites. 4 The number of times people have got he was the prince that was promised. 4.1 In Season 7, Melisandre meets with Daenerys Targaryen and tells her that she believes that both Daenerys and Jon Snow could be the prince that was promised. She says, "You and Jon Snow, you both have a part to play in the war to come." 5 R plus L equals J. His parentage brought some invaluable connections. Him being both a Targaryen, who could unite the realm, and a Stark who grew up in Winterfell. Him being Lyanna Stark's son and growing up in Winterfell meant the Starks, who are the Wardens of the North, are his family, and the Northerners are his people, so he could convince them to stand with him against the oncoming threat. His Stark cousins and their very useful skills did not require much convincing to join his cause because they grew up with him. Just expanding on the skills his cousins brought to the table. Let us start with Sansa. 5.1.1 Sansa. Sansa helped to rally the North behind Jon Snow's cause by working to build support among the various northern houses. She, Jon and Davos convinced Lady Lyanna Mormonts to pledge their forces to Jon's cause and worked to persuade other northern lords to join them as well. She played a pivotal role in winning the Battle of the Bastards by calling in reinforcements, which meant that the North was finally stabilized under the control of the Starks again. This meant they could keep the morale, support, and start preparing for both the winter and the long night. Sansa played a key role in preparing for the battle against the White Walkers by coordinating the logistics of the fight. She oversaw the preparation of Winterfell for the battle and worked with the other leaders to develop a battle plan. When Jon was away from the north for an extended period trying to gain Daenerys' support for his cause, she kept the Northerners united and the lords and ladies on their side. She also brought the support of the Vale, and they stayed after the Battle of the Bastards to help out with the Long Night. During the battle itself, Sansa helped to keep morale up and provide support to those fighting. She remained in the crypts with the other non-combatants, but she tried to stay strong for the people around her and comfort them when they were scared. 5.1.2 Bran was able to provide valuable information to Jon Snow and the other leaders of the fight against the White Walkers. He explained the Night King's backstory and provided insights into his motivations, allowing Jon and his allies to develop a strategy to defeat him. Bran's ability to warg into animals and see through their eyes allowed him to keep tabs on the movements of the White Walkers and their army. He was able to provide real-time updates to Jon and the other leaders of the fight, giving them valuable intelligence and allowing them to adjust their plans as needed. In the final battle against the Night King, Bran was able to use his powers to draw the Night King out into the open and lure him into a trap. By allowing himself to be exposed as a target, he gave Arya Stark the opportunity she needed to make her surprise attack and kill the Night King. 5.1.3 Arya was able to sneak past the White Walkers and their whites undetected, using her skills as a trained assassin to move quickly and quietly through the battlefield. When the Night King arrived at the Godswood to kill Bran Stark, Arya was able to leap out of the darkness and make a surprise attack on him. Her skills as a trained assassin and her quick reflexes allowed her to get past the Night King's defenses and kill him with her Valyrian steel dagger. Throughout the battle, Arya used her skills as a trained fighter and her quick reflexes to help defend herself and others from the White Walkers and their whites. She fought bravely and relentlessly, taking on multiple enemies at once and holding her own in even the toughest fights. In addition to her combat skills, Arya was also able to use her knowledge of Winterfell's tunnels and passageways to move quickly and avoid detection. She was able to use this knowledge to her advantage, sneaking up on the Night King and catching him off guard. 5.1.4 Daenerys. His good looks and his personality probably convinced Daenerys to fall in love with him. The Ant connection was only revealed later, when they were already lovers, so I am going to go with him being her lover did the heavy lifting when it came to bringing Daenerys to the table. She saved Jon Snow and his merry band of idiotic risk-takers in that ill-advised trip to north of the Wall to get a white to convince Cersei and Daenerys that the army of the dead was real. Daenerys provided Jon Snow and his allies with valuable reinforcements in the fight against the White Walkers. Her army of unsullied and Dothraki soldiers helped to bolster the numbers of the forces fighting against the dead, making it possible for them to mount a more effective defense. Daenerys also provided crucial air support in the battle against the White Walkers. Her dragons were able to fly over the battlefield and provide aerial attacks on the enemy, which proved to be an effective tactic against the undead army. During the battle, Daenerys showed bravery and determination in the face of danger. She personally led her dragons into battle against the White Walkers and was able to inflict significant damage on the enemy. 6. Jon Snow's other pivotal relationships. 6.1 His relationship with Samwell Tarly. Sam was one of Jon's closest friends and confidants, and their relationship proved to be critical in the fight against the White Walkers. Sam's knowledge of the ancient texts at the Citadel helped to reveal the vulnerability of the White Walkers to Valyrian steel, and he was able to provide Jon with the information he needed to defeat the Night King. 6.2 His relationship with Tormund Giantsbane. Jon also cultivated a close relationship with Tormund, the leader of the Free Folk, during his time beyond the Wall. Tormund and his followers played a crucial role in helping Jon and his allies to capture a White, which provided evidence of the threat posed by the White Walkers and helped to convince the other factions in Westeros to unite against them. Tormund also brought the Free Folk to Jon's side, and they stayed with him after Hardhome. 6.3 Davos. Davos Seaworth has been a loyal advisor and friend to Jon Snow since they met. Over the years he became Jon's right-hand man, and one of his biggest supporters. He believed in Jon's story about the White Walkers when no one else did. He helped Jon to gather support for the fight against the White Walkers. Davos used his connections and his reputation to help Jon to gather support from other lords and ladies in Westeros. This was essential, because it helped to ensure that Jon would have the resources he needed to fight the White Walkers. He fought alongside Jon against the White Walkers. 6.4 Tyrion. He convinced Daenerys Targaryen to help Jon fight the Night King. When Jon first met Daenerys, he tried to convince her to help him fight the Night King. However, Daenerys was reluctant to help because she was focused on taking the Iron Throne. Tyrion was able to convince Daenerys that the Night King was a real threat, and that she needed to help Jon if she wanted to rule Westeros. He helped to plan the Battle of Winterfell. Tyrion was one of the key figures in planning the Battle of Winterfell. He helped to come up with the strategy for the battle, and he also helped to coordinate the efforts of the different forces that were fighting the Night King. In conclusion, now tell me again why anyone would invalidate Jon Snow's role in the demise of the Night King. That was his mortal foe, and Jon brought all his connections, networks, family, and friends to win against him, and it worked. He might not have dealt the final blow, but no one, I repeat, no one in Westeros worked harder than him to ensure that the Night King and his army were defeated once and for all. And for that, Westeros owes Jon Snow a huge debt. That should have bought him his freedom at the end of the show, but that is a rant for another day. Toodles.